All right, welcome back, everybody. Joining us right now with reaction to the disaster in Japan, as well as other ongoing issues on Capitol Hill, is House Majority Leader Eric Cantor. And Leader Cantor, thank you very much for joining us today.
Good morning, Becky. Good to be with you.
You know, we've been trying to get our arms around what's happening in Japan, and obviously the situation is changing very quickly. But do you have access to better information than we do?
You know, Becky, I think right now the Japanese are so overwhelmed by this horrific event. I mean, I know all of us are thinking about the people of that country and offering help in any way that we can. But it seems to me that they are so overwhelmed by the unfolding events that seems to be the difficulty in trying to get exactly what's going on. But it is clear, I think, here in Washington that we believe the Japanese are some of our closest allies, and I think the offers of help have gone out to assist them with whatever they need.
So at this point, again, we know that we have this hearing today with all these concerns about what's happening with nuclear energy here in the United States. What's your feeling on how safe nuclear energy is, and how should we be thinking about this hearing today?
Well, first of all, I think, you know, we do need to get the facts of what is going on in Japan and learn from what has happened there. But from all indications, this event has been caused by the tsunami, not particularly by the earthquake. Now, the tsunami was a result of the earthquake, but it was because of the wave that actually hit the plants that seems to have brought on the horrific problem that the Japanese are dealing with. And in this country, you know, we certainly want to learn from that, but we also, I think, have proven that nuclear power can be a safe power. It is an integral part of our energy mix. The President has said he maintains his commitment to nuclear power. I share that commitment because I do think it's very important for us to continue going forward, learning what we can from what happened in Japan.
In this country, we went 30 years without approving any nuclear power plants because of what happened at 3 Mile Island. Obviously, people are going to be concerned once again. It does raise questions about what we thought was a completely safe energy source. And at this point, we're looking at 20 potential power plants that are looking for approval. You think that we should go ahead with approvals for those plants at this point?
Again, we have got to learn what happened in Japan, but I do think, Becky, we ought to put that in perspective again, because after finding out exactly what happens, we can perhaps distinguish the safety risk that we have in this country. But let's face it, our country does not have a national energy policy. I believe it is one that has to include nuclear power, and I believe, again, we'll hear today from the regulators what their commitment is and what their posture is. But I do think we ought to be cautious but proceed with nuclear power being part of our energy mix.
Eric, I'm looking at your job deal today that you got happening, and you know, let's see, Boehner, you, McCarthy, Hensarling, and you're all Republicans. You got no Democrats there. And then I'm looking at some of the companies. I don't see any. You got any blue chip companies going? It's like this. What is this? What's happening?
What's happening, Joe, is we are, for the first time, hosting a job creators forum that will be conducted in a forum that's very unconventional for Washington. We, as members of Congress, want to hear, we want to listen to people that we're relying on to go out and invest capital and create jobs. We want to hear what they need, what they'd like to see happen. We don't want to sit here and decide how we're going to wave a magic wand, use taxpayer dollars to say we're going to create jobs, because we've been there, done that, doesn't work. And so we're going to have CEOs from some of the very largest corporations in America to some of the very smallest, trying to listen to them to hear what is impeding their desire or ability to invest capital. We're going to hear maybe what they like to see going forward as far as tax policy, trade policy, and the kind of regulatory relief that some have indicated that they need to go about creating jobs.
Eric, it looks like it's going to be more about what you can prevent the government from doing in terms of impeding job growth rather than initiatives that the government can somehow actively promote job growth. I mean, that's sort of the inverse of what an Obama what the president would have in terms of a job. But the only thing, I don't see any blue chips. Are they afraid to come because then they won't get invited to?
I think you're going to see on there, Joe. There's Oracle.
Well, I'd like to see Larry Safra Katz. I do see Oracle. That was the only one. He's the new president of Oracle, but that's the only one.
Well, Safra is going to be here from a remote location at their headquarters out in California. But again, we've got some very significant companies that have created thousands of jobs. We want to hear from the small businesses too, not just the blue chip companies, because as we know, most jobs are created by those small businesses that start up, that go ahead and you have individuals willing to take a risk. That's what's been going on in this country. I mean, we've got people afraid to take a risk.
I think it'd be taking a risk to come to this if you plan on any more stimulus money from the administration.
Well, that's exactly the point, Joe. I think, again, we have seen Washington try and create jobs by spending $800 billion. That hasn't worked. So what we want to see is, look, let's all come together. We know we want to see jobs. And what can we do here in this town to create an environment to facilitate that? That's what this program's about.
As long as Elizabeth Warren gets enough money for it. Did you see the op-ed piece in the Journal today? 10% of the budget with no cap and no congressional. I can't wait to watch this. What do you think a good bureau costs from a woman who really wasn't nominated or voted on to get to where she is?
I think she'd say, let's keep the politicians out of this.
Yeah, let's keep them. But 400 million, right? Something like that. I mean, the consumer is going to be in a good position at this point because they're going to be so protected at this point. I mean, I don't think ever see anything ever happening again. Carl, you?
All bad things are over?
I think so. I mean, with 400 million, what can go wrong with
glad we got that settled. Leader Cantor, really quickly on the budget, looks like we got this 3-week extension, although it does sound like if people are counting on another one, they might be out of luck. Are you sensing that if a new extension were to be voted on today, it would fail?
Carl, what I think is people are frustrated here in Washington, just like around the country. We want to get the job done. We want to get on with next year's business. This is the kind of mess we're in when the last Congress failed to do its work. So we're trying hard to make sure that we keep our eye focused on what we need to do. These discretionary cuts, although they are significant, certainly pale in comparison to the problem that we're facing.
Right.
So we're trying to get on with the business. I'm hopeful this is a last stopgap measure that we can go about seeing, a measure that will deal with the rest of this fiscal year. So then we can get on to dealing with the really big stuff that matters, and that is the entitlement situation that is going to bankrupt this country if we don't deal with it.
I see this letter from Congressman King and Congressman Bachmann trying to use this process to not fund Obamacare. You seem to have suggested that that needs to really happen under some separate legislation.
No, what's happened, Carl, we've put across the floor twice attempts to try and defund Obamacare. We had one that wanted to straight out repeal it. We sent the bill over to the Senate. The Senate did not pass that bill. We also, in our initial attempt to cut $100 billion, went ahead and defunded the agencies that are implementing the rules of Obamacare.
Yeah.
What we can do as a Congress is we can delay, we can defund, we can derail, because we've got a president in office who doesn't want to sign a repeal bill. So what we're going to have to do is work very hard to squeeze these agencies of the money they need to implement the regulations of Obamacare.
But not through the discretionary spending mechanism, right?
Well, what the Democrats knew when they passed Obamacare was they knew there needed to be discretionary funding for the agencies to implement Obamacare. We're going to move to take that money away because they can't get it. They need prospective allocation of taxpayer dollars to implement Obamacare. We are going to aim to squeeze these agencies, to deny them of those funds so we can carry through in our commitment to delay it before we can get somebody who'd sign a repeal bill in the White House.
Finally, did you saw the article in The Hill this week that suggested Sperling and Geithner are pushing the president to move on Social Security, raise the retirement age, or at least propose doing so, but that his political team is saying, no way, too dangerous?
You know, Carl, I think the game is up, and that's why we Republicans in the House have said we're going to deal with it. We're going to be honest with the people and say, First of all, you can't sustain this trajectory of benefits. Currently, we're borrowing nearly 40 cents out of every dollar we're spending. If you look at these entitlement programs, what we've got to admit to ourselves is they're not going to be around in their current state unless we significantly alter who we are as a country.
But are you encouraged by the fact that some reportedly are actually prodding him to do so, or discouraged by the fact that his political team is saying don't?
I'm discouraged by the fact that the president has not stepped up on this issue and said we need to take it on. He failed to put it in his budget. You know, that was, I think, the missed opportunity that this White House had, and that's why we Republicans in the House are going to look to the budget coming out of Paul Ryan's Budget Committee that will deal with entitlements. We're going to put it out there. We're going to say we're protecting today's seniors and those nearing retirement.
And let the chips fly.
And but for the rest of us, Carl, for those of us 54 and under, we're going to insist to go and deal with the fact that if these programs are going to be around, they're going to have to look a lot different. That's all. That's the plain and simple facts of it.
Yeah, you're out. Sorry. I'm in good shape, Eric.
I know this.
I'm in good shape, Eric. Hey, I'm with you 100% on this. You said 54 and under, right?
This is an outrage.
Good. Go for it. That's good.
Wow. Japan, jobs, the budget, healthcare, you name it. A lot going on, Leader Cantor.
Doesn't make up for everything else that goes along with being 55, believe me.
Really?
No, it does not.
Do tell.
Excuse me.
He's got to go. He's got to go offset. He'll be back in a couple minutes. Leader Cantor, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being with us.
Always a pleasure.